The Illuminati can be generally difficult to define, so I will stick to the basic facts to keep it as simple as I can for the sake of this presentation. The Illuminati are a secret society founded in 1776 in Bavaria, Germany by a chap called Adam Weishaupt. The word itself, Illuminati, literally means to be illuminated with knowledge, as this knowledge in turn brings light, illuminating an individual. They are deeply occultic in their beliefs and they revel in secret knowledge. Another name for Satan is Lucifer. Lucifer, which literally translates to light bearer, is more likely to be portrayed as a beautiful angel and light-giving. It is common amongst the secret societies and occultic beliefs for Lucifer to be considered as the source of everything, but especially of all light and of all knowledge. The Illuminati are 100% Luciferian in their philosophy. They sincerely believe that the serpent or the devil is the good guy in the Genesis account, and that Eve was right to eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and that when she did become like God. Albert Pike, one of the founding fathers of Freemasonry, was himself a 33-degree Freemason. He was also a top leader in the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. Pike, being Sovereign Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite, was a devout Luciferian. His famous works, Morals and Dogma, in 1871, is still today considered to be the handbook or study guide for the Scottish Rite within Freemasonry. This is a direct quote from Albert Pike's works, Morals and Dogma. Open quote. Lucifer, the light-bearer, strange and mysterious name to give to the spirit of darkness. Lucifer, the son of the morning, is it he who bears the light? Doubt it not. End quote. However, the Bible contradicts this teaching. It exposes Lucifer as being Satan. Open quote. And no wonder, for even Satan himself disguises himself as an angel of light. Close quote. The esoteric symbol to present Lucifer is traditionally the lightning bolt. This is referencing Jesus' words in Luke chapter 10 verse 18, where he says, quote, "And I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." End quote. It is not confirmed how many people belong to the Illuminati. According to a credible ex-Illuminati member known as Savali, they make up approximately 1% of the population. They consist of 13 bloodlines. That is to say, you are either born into the order or you're not. So if you hear Lady Gaga is the Illuminati, it is unlikely that she is in the bloodline and actually a part of the Illuminati order. It is more likely the case she has been recruited by them to promote their agenda and help them indoctrinate the next generation. Lady Gaga is just one of the many music artists who have openly sold their soul to the industry in exchange for fame and fortune, hence why her debut album is titled The Fame Monster. The 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati make up the world's elite. They are the head of the banking systems. They are the think tanks of the world, the political groups, the educational groups. They own all mainstream media channels, and their main agenda is simple: world domination, commonly called the New World Order. They want one global village of which they control. They see us, the general public, the masses, as nothing more than a bewildered herd or cattle. Their nickname for us, the people, is the sheeple. The Rockefellers are one of the more commonly known Illuminati families, and David Rockefeller, currently the patriarch of the Rockefeller family, is an American banker and philanthropist. Not just any American banker, mind you. He, along with the Rothschilds, another Illuminati bloodline, between these two families own the entire financial banking system and thus solely control the Federal Reserve, the Rockefellers controlling America and the Rothschilds covering the finances and banks in Europe. David Rockefeller is also the founder of the Council of Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. Both of these political groups basically get together to discuss foreign policy and ultimately are responsible for deciding the future of the world, which again and again the same theme emerges: a new world order, and he makes no secret of this. David Rockefeller is quoted in his book Memoirs as saying, quote, "Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterising my family and me as internationalists and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure, one world if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty and I'm proud of it. I need to move on, but if you are interested in more information about the New World Order and the Illuminati's agenda, how they plan to achieve world domination, check out the Georgia Guidestones. This is a monument erected in Elbert County, Georgia, which has their agenda engraved in their own words on each side of the 4 stone slabs in a different language. There are 10 guides, or commandments if you will, openly outlining their intentions, how they intend to reduce the world population over 80% from 7 billion down to just 500 million, and bring about a new one world religion, or universal spirituality. This monument is generally shrouded with mystery, but the engraved tribute found next to it is a big clue. It has inscribed, "Let these be guidestones to an age of reason." The Age of Reason is a book written by Thomas Paine in 1794. Its intent was to destroy the Judeo-Christian beliefs upon which the American Republic was founded. I should issue a warning at this point that this is all pretty disturbing and very serious, and it's very much out there if you want to look further into it. It's all there, hiding in plain sight.
Do you not think an angel rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm? This work continues. The story goes on. And an angel still rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm. God bless you all.
While in Israel, President Donald Trump became the first U.S. sitting president to visit the Western Wall. It's considered to be one of the holiest places in the Jewish faith. The Western Wall is located in the Old City of Jerusalem, land Israel seized from Jordan during the Six-Day War in 1967. Israel later made Jerusalem its capital. Jerusalem is also a major sticking point of the Israel-Palestine conflict. Both sides consider Jerusalem its capital. That's why the Trump administration did not want Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to accompany Trump to visit the Western Wall. ABC reports the administration claimed it was a private visit, but a U.S. official reportedly told an Israeli official that the Western Wall is, quote, not your territory, it's part of the West Bank. Trump's visit coincides with the 50th anniversary of Israel's capture of Jerusalem.
Behind me is the Western Wall. In the excavations beneath Wilson's Arch, we have exposed 8 courses of one of the most important walls in the history of Jerusalem, stones that haven't seen light for 1700 years.
עם ישראל התרפק תמיד על אבני הקודש, ואנחנו ברוך השם זכינו למה שדורות לפנינו לא זכו, לחשוף עוד אבנים קדושות מאבני הכותל המערבי. אבנים שעיני התפילות נשואות אליהם.
I feel it's a great privilege to have the opportunity to excavate in this place. As the excavation went along, we saw the different stages of Jerusalem, which represent the different stages of the history of the city. It's very exciting.
We're here beneath Wilson's Arch, a large arch which supported a bridge connecting between the city to the west and the Temple Mount to the east. One of the major questions is, when was this arch that we see today, when was it built? We don't have a good answer for that yet from the excavations. What we do have is something that we didn't expect whatsoever.
We know from historical sources that there was a theater in Jerusalem, and for about 150 years, researchers and archaeologists were looking for the theater unsuccessfully.
סר צ'ארלס וורן, הוא היה הארכיאולוג והחוקר הראשון שגילה את מערכת מנהרות הכותל. פיר אחד הוא חופר במרגלות הכותל המערבי, ופיר שני הוא חופר בדיוק במקום שאני יושב פה. מה שאתם יכולים לראות, את הקרקוב הזה, את הדבר הזה, משום מה, צ'ארלס וורן פספס לפני כ-150 שנה.
During the excavations, a complete surprise was exposing in the center of the excavation area a theater-like structure, the first of its kind to be exposed in Jerusalem.
In year 70, the temple was destroyed, and the city changed from a Jewish city into a Roman city. Part of those changes was also these entertainment or leisure buildings, which is expected to find in every Roman city.
We know theaters or theater-like structures are mentioned in historical sources. For example, in Josephus, I don't know if that's the same building that's mentioned in these historical sources, but what we have begun to uncover is the importance of the city, which had basic Roman functional structures such as theaters or theater-like complexes in Jerusalem, known as Ilia Capitolina at the time.
There are a few elements here that give us some hints that this building was never completed. We see some of the staircases aren't carved completely. There's a pilaster here carved on the wall of the orchestra of the theater-like structure. We see that on one side it's completed. Over here we see that someone marked where the carving should have been done, but it was never completed.
It's possible that the building was never finished in relation to the Bar Kokhba revolt. Perhaps they began to build a structure, the Bar Kokhba revolt erupts, and they leave the structure unfinished, not returning to it.
החפירה בקשת וילסון היא אבן דרך מאוד מאוד משמעותית, שאני מקווה שהחפירה הזו תסייע לנו בקידום התוכנית הכוללת, על מנת שנזכה לראות את ירושלים הקדומה בתפארתה.
We had the opportunity to work with youth groups that came to volunteer in the excavations. The Israel Antiquities Authority has put forth a major point in not only exposing Jerusalem's past, but also making sure that we pass that on to future generations. These groups, of course, were very excited with the structures that they were exposing, particularly the Western Wall, which is a symbol for everyone who worked here.
Hey, any fish? It's the 10th of January, 2018, and I was reading Ezekiel 8 again. I'm just completely being led to this particular chapter because, I mean, my spirit is just telling me there's a lot here to be, a lot to be learned here, and it pertains to exactly what's going on today. And again, you're going to have to read Ezekiel 8 and understand it for yourself, and everything I tell you, I can only tell you to take it to prayer, discern everything, and research it for yourself. I'm going to leave a ton of links for this. So, I mean, the research has already been done for you. I just am not the best at articulating these things to you. That's all. But when he tells them to dig into the wall, now they're at the temple now, and this is God giving Ezekiel these visions, and he tells them to behold the wicked abominations that they do, the idols of the house of Israel, the 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel. And he repeats these things over and over. See what they do, the ancients of the house of Israel, in the dark. Every man, he seeth us not, right? So there's your Isaiah 29:15. So again, I'm led right back to the synagogue. And this time, I was led to count all the chairs and to study how this is laid out. And this is what I'm going to share with you in this particular video. If you look in this synagogue and count all the chairs, both in the audience section and in the inner circle here, this little semicircle, you have 111 seats in total. And once I got that figure, it was obvious to me, and I was literally just led right to where I had seen these things before. And this is all related to the Kabbalah. Okay? You have your Kabbalah tree, your 10-10-10, and your 1-1-1, and the knowledge of learning and gaining throughout your life, essentially. Kabbalah is very, very ancient and very, very Jewish, and you can learn all about it. They're eager to teach you about it. Again, I'll leave all these links. What is Kabbalah? It is the soul of Judaism. This is what they say, and I'll leave links for everything. But the Kabbalah also has other uses, and you know, the ones who attend the synagogue, essentially they're probably 98% well-meaning, God-loving. They sincerely seek the Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but they're being deceived. Okay? And that little tiny percentage, they're the ones that are doing the deceiving, and they're the ones that are working for Satan. And hardly any of them even know it, but some of them do. And they work off of the Kabbalah tree. Now, there are many versions. The tarot emanates from the Kabbalah tree. Okay, you need to look into this stuff if you're so inclined. The two pillars, Jachin and Boaz, outside of the temple, which I believe is what was being referred to in Ezekiel as the abominations at the gate of the altar. I just don't see how God could approve of them. And he tells Ezekiel to go into and see the abominations that they do. And just for this video, because I just can't contain and show all of it to you, but the 111 should just tell you that they're totally Kabbalists. And the way that these chairs are situated is very, very telling. Because if you look on the inner section here, there are 2 rows of 4 chairs at the very, very center of the synagogue here. Right up towards the front, which is right here. You see these 2 rows of 4 chairs? Those, plus the idol, because that's what I'm calling it. I'm calling that an abomination. They've gone in here more or less in secret, doing it right in front of us, though, because that's what they do. And they've created an abomination almost directly below where the holies of holies, the literal presence of God, would be. And there's 8 chairs, and the 1, 9. That's what's known as the Council of 9. And if you don't believe that that's true, I just don't know what to tell you. But, I mean, simple wiki. If you do any digging into this, you'll find the real nitty-gritty details, but the Council of 9 is very real. It was to punish mankind, Zeus, and 8 other deities gathered to form the Council of 9. It's all here.
For supposedly laws God gave to Noah. If you break the laws, most punishments are beheading. George Bush Sr. signed it into law. He snuck it in with an Education Day recognition bill, recognizing the Jewish scholar who supports living under Noahide laws. For those that don't already know, there is an evil sect of Jewish people that practice the Kabbalah, mysticism, witchcraft. You know where the tarot cards come from. Tarot cards are like a portable Kabbalah, if that makes sense. Both are hinged by a tree of life. It's a diagram with 10 points and 22 paths. There's your 22 major cards of the tarot, and also witches used to have 22 paths or courses of study. It's all the same old witchcraft, later called Kabbalah or tarot. Kabbalah originated in the 1600s, although they try and convince people it began way earlier. There's a lot of subtlety implied, though. In their rise to position, there's a bunch of ritualistic junk, and then they choose to be a goat instead of a sheep. The evils are all in there, and it's all based on the Old Testament and 12 tribes, you name it, 10 commandments. That makes it even more evil to me. Talk about the deepest depths of Luciferianism. And on the JewishScholars.org website, it talks about peace and love and how they want to implement the Noahide laws into the education systems and charities through the United Nations. This is some really creepy stuff. And this is who and what George Bush is honoring with the so-called Education Day. U.S. President George W. Bush discusses roadmap to world peace based on 7 universal Ben Noah laws. You can look that up. Among the religious leaders was Rabbi Yaakov Cohen, who represented the Worldwide Institute of Noahide Code, an organization dedicated to promote the Noahide Code of 7 universal Noah laws. Rabbi Cohen presented the roadmap to world peace, explaining that the Noahide laws will unite all of mankind. The Talmud lists the punishment for blaspheming the ineffable name of God as death. The sons of Noah are to be executed by decapitation for most crimes, considered one of the lightest capital punishments, by stoning if he has intercourse with a Jewish betrothed woman, or by strangulation if the Jewish woman has completed the marriage ceremonies but had not yet consummated the marriage. In Jewish law, the only form of blasphemy which is punishable by death is blaspheming the ineffable name Leviticus. The Maimonides state that anyone who does not accept the 7 laws is to be executed, as God compelled the world to follow these laws. However, for other prohibitions, such as the grafting of trees and bestiality, he holds that the sons of Noah are not to be executed. Now keep in mind, these Jews are not worshiping God Almighty, the I Am that I Am. They're worshiping Lucifer. According to the Maimonides, the Jewish scholars, anyone who accepts upon himself and carefully observes the 7 commandments is one of the righteous of the nations of the world and has a portion in that world to come. How creepy is that? According to Wikipedia, in practice, Jewish law makes it very difficult to apply the death penalty, but America is under a U.S. law now, isn't it? That's crazy. If you look on their .org page, you'll see they're all up in the United Nations talking about world peace and coming together in unity. Blasphemy against God is probably the law that will cause Christians to be beheaded, because these Jews are demonic. They don't believe in Jesus Christ, so to them, we would be worshiping a false god. Now, this is a small group of Jews that practice this. It's like the evil Jewish Pharisees back in the time when they crucified Jesus on the cross. These are those that claim to be Jews, but are not. God literally calls them out in the Bible for what they are. In Revelation 3:9, "Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee." Like I said, in their little rituals to grow in levels, they literally proclaim they are goats and not sheep. In layman's term, they are Satan's, not God's people. Now, for those who will proclaim it's like the Muslims claiming only a small group are responsible for evil, like ISIS, let me clarify something. All Muslims read the Quran and believe in Islam that tells them all to murder us. Not all Jews believe in the Noahide laws. That's the difference right there. So don't go blaming all Jews for this. Recognize the source this is coming from. Those claiming to be Jews that are not. Revelation 3:9. So apparently this Noahide law can be implemented at any time. But something like this, it can only be carried out with a nationwide martial law in place. Now, I did a video a couple years back, Guillotines in the U.S. Update, January 2014. I'll leave the link in the description. It talks about the state of Georgia lawmakers trying to pass a law to use guillotines in prison for organ harvesting. It didn't pass, but apparently the guillotines were brought in during this, and they're all being stored on military bases. 30,000 guillotines is what's reported. So the guillotines are already here. Bush has already passed the law to go back to the Noahide 7 laws, which includes beheadings if you break the laws. The Institute of Noahide held the event One People, One World at the United Nations, demonstrating the universal appeal of the Noahide 7 laws, regardless of divisions of nationality, class, or creed. They claim to be protecting everyone, both Jews and non-Jews, labeling it a humanitarian effort, an attempt to promote its values. Just don't break the laws and you won't be beheaded. Sounds a lot like Islam, doesn't it?
So what does Rothschild mean, like in Baron de Rothschild? Well, it doesn't have anything to do with the child. It's a German name, and Rot, it means red, as you can see here. And Schild is like the English word a shield, a Templar's shield, you know, to protect himself. So the red shield, you can see it here, it's Swiss. And during the 30-Year War, the Swiss mercenaries under Templars' leadership, they murdered about 20 million Germans. 20 million. And whole towns disappeared from the face of the earth. So they settled it into the south of Germany, where the Rothschilds came from. And they are Swiss. I mean, the banks are Swiss anyway. The banks are from the Templars. I don't even think the guy's Jewish or something. It's Swiss. Oh, here it is again, the official logo of the Swiss Keepers of the Oath. It says in 4 different languages. Well, here is your Rothschild. So the name is Rothschild. Okay? Well, here's your Rothschild, a red shield or Rothschild on the Swiss embassy in Moscow, in Russia. The Templars' shield. Rothschild in the at the embassy in London. Swiss embassy in Libya. Even in Muslim countries they show the red shield or the Templars' shield. Well, the Muslims must like that, a Templar shield in their country. Swiss embassy in Kosovo, another Muslim country with a Templar shield. So this name here has nothing to do with a child. It's Schild, and it means, like in English, a shield. And the Roth, it's Old German, meaning red. So if you take away the H, it's like New German, still being used today. And they came from Germany. So the name is German, and I just showed you where the shields are today. You know, the Keepers of the Oath, they call themselves. And the banks are there, the Templars, the power. The name is Switzerland. It's just another name for the Templars. The red shield. The red shield. Right? So no child, eh? The red shield. There it is. So don't say Rothschild anymore. Say red shield.
Now what you're looking at right here, this is the Supreme Court building in Israel. And as you can see right there over on the left, that's an Illuminati pyramid with the sun symbol, or the eye, right there at the very top. It's a very common symbol that we all associate with the Illuminati, or the beast system, if you will. And here we find it on top of Israel's Supreme Court building. I thought it was weird, man, and all the time I've covered it, this one somehow just kind of got past me a little bit. I've covered some things about Israel and the Illuminati, but never really went that deep into it. I've got a lot of pieces of the puzzle I've collected over the years, but this right here really set it in stone for me. So I wanted to do a video and just kind of cover a few things about this. It's a very, very important find. I did a little research online. I found about 4 or 5 years ago some people were talking about this and putting this out there. So it's not that this is exactly fresh, but I mean, as I said, even when I saw that video from Paul Begley, it was kind of fresh to me. I was like, whoa, and it really kind of struck me. So this was a really important catch as far as I'm concerned, and we definitely need to delve into this a little bit deeper. As I said, I've got some information on this stuff throughout the years, but seeing this video yesterday, it's like, okay, let's go ahead and dive into this some. It's important to understand that the same families who own and control the Federal Reserve and other major financial institutions have their eyes set on the Temple Mount and the holy city of Jerusalem. Just as the scriptures say, there's a man who will be revealed as the Antichrist, and he will sit there before the appearance of the Jewish Messiah, and many will receive him as their Messiah. And speaking of that, I've actually covered Dig, the TV series, in a few other videos, but it actually just concluded recently. But that right there was the whole idea behind this TV series Dig. It was about establishing the Jewish Messiah. It was about these rituals they were doing at the Temple Mount to usher this in. They were performing these rituals at the temple that would essentially be Armageddon, the end of the world, and that would offer them the chance to bring in this Jewish Messiah. Even in the TV show, it was all about blood sacrifice. They were going to sacrifice this red heifer. As I said, I've covered that as well in some other videos. It's interesting to note, God wouldn't send men to that place anymore to perform blood sacrifices. His son's blood was the perfect sacrifice, so there's no need for us to shed the blood of dumb animals any longer. Yeshua did a perfect work, and remember, it was finished. What's kind of creepy and freaky about this is I do believe that the Antichrist, whenever it arrives on the national scene, it'll be accepted by most Christians as the Savior who can bring peace and safety, peace and order to the world. So ultimately, Jesus, Yeshua, will enter into that place, the holy mountain of God, and cleanse it. But before that happens, all hell is going to break loose in Jerusalem and the world. So with all that said, I want to explore a little bit more of this symbolism here at the Supreme Court. We'll even go inside some, and I just want to show you a few things. So this is a very, very touchy subject, and before I get into it, I just want to address a few things. It's not all the Jews, all right? I get this message on so many of my videos. It's like, why don't you ever talk about the Jews? It's the Jews, So much hatred for that entire race. Now, I refuse to do that, because what a lot of people don't understand is that all religions are controlled by the devil. All religions are of the beast system. Islam has the cube. Many of us know about the cube and understand the symbolism there. The cube going back to Saturn or Saturnalia, or ultimately back to Satan. So a lot of layers to that particular onion right there. But once again, this is a religion that is controlled by the beast, ultimately. Even in America, if you look at most churches, because there's so many different denominations, right? All these different interpretations of God's word and what God's all about. Got all these buildings. But if you look at these buildings, and this is a typical example of most churches in America, if you look at these buildings, if you look right there in the lower left right there, they always have the pyramid with the sun in the middle, the sun symbol. This is why those lines are coming out. It's the illumination. Now, I'm not saying it's a bunch of Illuminati guys in black hoods, built these churches or whatever. This goes back to the connection with Freemasonry and religion. And that's all fine and good, and I wouldn't really have a personal issue with it if it wasn't for the fact that Freemasons take oaths of secrecy. So basically, whatever's happening in the church, or they're saying in the church, or saying in public, could be very different from what they're doing and saying and working on in private. But on the higher level of the pyramid, the higher level of the Freemason structure, it's definitely much darker up there. So these are examples of, once again, what I call that beast system. Remember, it is the enemy that is in control of all of these religions. We don't need religion. This is where it gets tricky. Now, that's not to say that the people that go to church or the people that go to synagogue or go to mosques or whatever are all evil and bad people either. These are the sheep. These are the little lambs. There are millions of people on this planet that are controlled by that beast system through their very religions. And this is regardless of what they hold in their hearts. There are really good people that fall for this stuff. I mean, I see it in my own family. I was one. I was raised in a church myself. I was one. I was raised in a church in the Midwest myself, and I'm glad I was. It gave me a really good understanding of the basics and the fundamentals of religion and whatnot, but it wasn't until I personally left the church and started researching for myself that I really started to connect with the very real spiritual battle that's taking place in our world all around us, and the insane grip that this beast system has on all of religion and on people's hearts and minds. And I'm not saying, don't go to church and this and that or the other. I mean, some people need that community. It's a good place to learn the basics and the fundamentals. I mean, the whole thing, right? It just didn't work for me. And I've been to pretty much every church you can imagine. I've got books on the Book of Mormon. I've got the English version of the Quran, Dianetics from L. Ron Hubbard, you name it. I mean, I've read about everything. I've been to a lot of different churches. I've mentioned in other videos I was actually in a bit of a cult in Maui. And there was no brainwashing, they didn't get me an MK Ultra or anything like that, but the guy that ran it was a charismatic and really, really good with words, and it didn't take long for me to realize this guy was cuckoo. It took a few months. The point is, we've all been deceived. We can all get pulled back into this beast system. So again, this is very touchy stuff, and I don't want anybody thinking this is anti-Semitic. Now, that's a big issue. This is what this Illuminati, if you will, these people at the top of the pyramid, have been hiding behind for decades now. Like, if you ever go against Israel or say anything against Israel, it's like automatically you're an anti-Semite. You hate the Jews. That's all a psyop. It's social engineering. It's just a way to shut you down and keep your mouth shut. So once again, understand, I'm coming from a place of love. I see us all as brothers and sisters in Christ, whether people believe in that or not. That's how I see the world. The Supreme Court building sits on a plot of land next to the Foreign Ministry and the Central Bank of Israel. It's important to note there's a lot of ley lines at play here as well. I'm not going to cover that so much here in this video. There's people out there that do really good work with that. There's a lot of things happening with the ley lines all around the Supreme Court as well. But that being said, it's important to understand that everything about this building has been thought out to the very finest detail. And I see it as absolutely diabolical. This is the devil's plan being put into place before we ever even realize it. The devil, knows its final battle will be here in Jerusalem. Now, if you're not familiar with the Rothschild family, please do a little research there. People always ask, who's the Illuminati? What do they look like? This is one of them. The Rothschild family is one of the Illuminati bloodline families. So it's interesting to note that the engineers who were chosen for this job by the Rothschilds were the grandson and granddaughter of a man who actually worked for Baron Rothschild. You also find their love of numerology all throughout this building and in the building process. It was important to the builder to have everything done according to the correct numbers. It's really interesting because all around the building you'll find these different pathways that you can walk through, and here's one right here. The larger circle you see at the bottom of the picture is actually an inverted cross, and this whole thing was designed for people to walk on. So this is actually a religious emblem placed there designed for people to trample on under their feet. So keeping in mind that we're approaching a one world religion, okay, this is what's coming. This will be the beast system fully revealed, the Antichrist system. So this is why we find all the world religions represented in one way or another. For instance, right here, just beyond that Egyptian obelisk, lies a Muslim gravesite. Another thing you'll find all throughout the building and even out in the courtyard are multiple Hindu altars. And just in case there's still any doubt that the Rothschilds are actually behind this is one of the placards you find on the wall. The founder of the Rothschild dynasty and his 5 sons established all the central banks throughout Europe. The Rothschilds made several stipulations with the Israeli government before building the Supreme Court. And among them were that the Rothschilds would pick the plot of land to build the Supreme Court, they would use their own architects, and no one would ever know how much the building actually cost. It took them 4 years to build this structure with many secrets built into it. As I said, every element of this building was built according to occult knowledge. This right here is a great example. You find it right here that when you first enter the building, you actually find yourself on the journey. This entire journey is intended to bring one from darkness into the light and become an illuminated one. As you see here, when you very first enter the building, it starts off with dim lighting, but as you look up the stairs, you see the bright light that comes from a very large window that looks over parts of Jerusalem. It's also very important to note these steps here. There are 3 sets of 10 steps, making a total of 30. Now, as you ascend these 30 steps, you come from the darkness into the light. And from here you can see the world, or in this case the city of Jerusalem, like you've never seen it before. It's also worth mentioning that right here on the right side you'll see the old Jerusalem stone. Some even believe these same stones were used in the Second Temple. And on the other side you'll see the smooth modern wall. There are 6 lampstands going up that speaks to the man on his journey to gain his knowledge and become illuminated. But once again, I think it's very important to note that the ones who built this building built it to be, in their eyes, perfect and in their order of things, even numerically. And even right here, this is where we start getting a little bit deeper, but when you leave the center courtroom or the main courtroom, The base of the stairs you walk down, as you descend, you'll find the fertility symbol right there in the very center, which is always present in any of these so-called Illuminati structures. It's often kind of hidden, but it's always there. The symbol there in the center represents the woman, and then the, of course, staff, or whatever you'd like to call that, going through the center is the penetration. And speaking of that sign of fertility, we find it once again here at Wasilla High School. They actually made the statue a few years back, and this is Sarah Palin's territory right here. Once again, they're telling us that this is all about the, quote, warrior from within. Once again, alluding to the, if you will, female sexual organs, these signs of fertility. These things are often connected as well to the whole idea of goddess worship, and I've covered that in a lot of videos as well.
I want to see a Swiss system. I mean, I wouldn't mind being conquered by Switzerland right now. They were brought here as slaves. They got nigger. The clan is getting bigger. What?
The iconic Secretariat's building proportions are based on phi. As you know, this proportion links the structure with the Washington Monument and the Great Pyramid. Did you know the 69,000 square meter site of UN headquarters is considered international territory and is technically not a part of New York City? The UN headquarters has its own security force, fire department, and postal administration that even issues its own stamps. The notion of UN headquarters being a city within a city reminds me of how the Vatican is also a city within Rome. I like to refer to this as a nested city or fractal structure. I was fascinated to discover that the Italian government donated an Arnaldo Pomodoro sphere-within-sphere sculpture to the UN in 1991. The golden ball beautifully represents the concept of a city within a city. The internal structures seem to me like buildings and streets on the inner surfaces of the spheres. I'm intrigued because I've seen 3 other similar sculptures in locations significant to my research. Pomodoro made a series of 6 spheres within spheres scattered around the world. Significant sphere-within-sphere locations are the Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden in D.C., very close to the Capitol building, the De Young Museum in San Francisco, and in the Vatican's courtyard of the Belvedere.